Hello, my dear students. How are you doing today? Hope you all are keeping well and are in good spirits. I am here again with a new poem, The Shed by Franklin. First, let us know some facts about the poet. Dr. Francis Stanislaus Elias Franklin was born on 6 December 1906 in Sydney, Australia. He was a renowned doctor, ophthalmologist, an author, and missionary priest. He made several notable contributions in the study of eye disease with the introduction of new drug mydricin used in operating on detached retina. He has a number of degrees trailing his name. His major publications are Distant Horizons, Northern Gateway, The Living Heart, and Northern Frontiers. He died in Sydney on 29 July 2000. Let us now try to know the central idea of the poem. The Shed is a poem about a small shed or room away from the main house located at the far end of the garden. Mostly, a shed is a small room away from the main house meant for storage or keeping animals. Since it is in a secluded place, the poet is curious and scared about it. Various thoughts come in his mind and he narrates the poem in a way which reflects the fear in his mind. Now we shall try to know the summary of the poem. The poet talks about a shed located at the corner of the garden of his house. When the rusty hinges make a creak sound with the wind, it frightened him. He, in his mind, was sure that someone was looking at him through the cracked glass pane of the window. His brother had told him about a ghost living in the shed, though he tried to dismiss and knew it was only his brother's idea to keep him away from the shed, which he wants to keep for himself as a den. He was afraid, yet curious, and wanted to go in the shed one day. Now we shall try to recite the poem. Children, it is very necessary to recite the poem with correct intonations. Let me do it for you once and you may try it further. The Shed. There is a shed at the bottom of our garden with a spider's web hanging across the door. The hinges are rusty and creak in the wind. When I'm in bed, I lie and listen. I'll open that door one day. There's a dusty old window around at the side with 3 cracked panes of glass. I often think there's someone staring at me each time that I pass. I'll peep through that window one day. My brother says there's a ghost in the shed who hides under the rotten floorboards, and if I ever dare to set foot inside, he'll jump out and chop off my head. But I'll take a peek one day. I know that there isn't really a ghost. My brother tells lies to keep the shed for his den. There isn't anyone staring or making strange noises, and the spider has been gone from his web since I don't know when. I'll go into that shed one day soon, but not just yet. By Franklin. Now we will try to understand the poem one by one. I have here taken one stanza at a time. In the reference to the context, we will give the reference from the poem the stanza has been taken and in which context it has been written. Then the explanation part has been done. The first stanza refers there's a shed up to one day. Reference. The given lines have been taken from the poem The Shed composed by Franklin. Context. The poem deals with the fear of a young boy about a shed situated at the bottom of the garden. Explanation of these lines. There was a shed near the house of the poet at the bottom of their garden. Bottom here means far away end or the corner. The door was covered with hanging spiders' webs. The old door hinges are rusty and make a creaky sound with the opening and closing of the door. He listened to the sound while lying on his bed. He decided to open the door one day to witness everything by himself. These lines clearly show that the boy is afraid of the shed that is near his house. He wants to go inside, but he does not has that much courage. He hears the rusty and creaky sounds of the opening and closing of the door. He is afraid of the spider's web there, but somehow he decides to open the door one day and to witness everything by himself. Reference to the context of the second stanza, the lines from "There's a dusty" to "One day." Reference. The given lines have been taken from the poem The Shed, composed by the legendary poet Frank Flynn. This is the another way of writing the reference. Context. The poem tells about the fear of a young boy about a shed situated at the bottom of their garden. Explanation of these lines. The shed was a small room situated at the corner of the garden. There was a dusty old window at the side. 3 of the 4 glass panes of the window are cracked. The poet was scared and assumed as if someone looked at him through the glass window. Whenever he passed through the window, it gave him a shiver. He had decided to peep through the window one day. This line reflects that he wanted to overcome his fear. If he peeped inside and found no one, his fear would vanish. Do you know what do we mean by the panes of the window? The panes of the window are the glasses that are put on a window. Then here we see that 3 of the 4 glasses are already broken or cracked. That means it is an old shed and nobody goes there most often. The poet is very much scared. When he looks at those window panes, he thinks that someone is looking towards him through that window pane. It gives him a shiver. So he decides to go and peep through the window one day. He just wants to overcome his fear. Reference to the context to the third stanza, starting from "My brother" to "Peek one day." Reference. The given stanza is an extract of the poem The Shed, composed by Australian poet Frank Flynn. Children, you can clearly see here that every time I have given the reference in a different way. There are various ways to write a reference, but the name of the poem and the poet is a must. Context. The poem narrates the fear of a young boy who had the fear of a shed in the garden of his house. Explanation. The poet gave his brother's reference who tried to keep him away from the shed. His brother said that there may be a ghost in the shed who hid himself under the rotten or withered wooden floorboards. He should not tear his foot inside the shed or the ghost would jump off and chop his head. But the poet is determined to take a peek one day. Children, we all are afraid of the ghosts one way or the other. We have that fear in our mind, and the poet's brother takes full advantage of this. He tells his brother that there may be a ghost in the shed, and now the poet is very much afraid to go and get a peek inside it. There are withered wooden floorboards, and the ghost may appear from nowhere up from there. Now, since he is very much afraid, so he does not go inside, but he has that determination in him to take a peek one day and go inside that shed. Reference to the context to the concluding stanza, I know up to not just yet. Reference. The lines reproduced here have been taken from the poem The Shed, given in the textbook Honeycomb by the poet Frank Flynn. Context. The poem deals with the fear of a young boy of a shed in the garden of the house. Explanation. The poet concludes with the poet's acceptance that he knew that there wasn't any ghost inside the shed. In his heart, he knew it was all his brother's plan to keep him away from the shed and use it as his den. The poet realized that no one was staring at him or making noises. Even the spider had gone from his web long back. He was sure that one day he would go inside the shed, but not until he gathered all the courage to do so. Children, this was a beautiful poem written by Frank Flynn, where a young boy tries to overcome his fear in various ways. He convinces himself with various thoughts that are coming to his mind and draws the courage to peek into the shed one day. Now we must try to see at the poetic devices that have been used in the poem. The rhyming pattern of the poem is in blank verses. The figure of speech is personification. It is used in the poem as we can see in lines. There is a ghost, there are spider webs. I hope you all know what do we mean by personification. A personification is to personify any non-living object, animal, or even a tree. So here the ghost has been personified to a person or even the spider webs. Hope you all liked the story or the poem. Children, this was a small attempt to present the beautiful poem The Shed, written by Franklin, in front of you. I have tried to explain the poem stanza-wise. We all have a fear of one kind or the other, and we try to overcome it in our own ways. So this was a poem about the fear of a young boy. Next time I'll try to come in front of you with another poems or a new chapter. Till then, take very good care of yourself. God bless you all. Have a nice day. Take care.